Brooks is found guilty on all counts, all 76 counts, which means that he will be spending at least 300 years in prison. I guess he'll be the most sovereign person in that prison, so we'll talk about the jury deliberations, what happened with that, and some of the aftermath as well, because it does appear that some of the people are not happy with it, including his mother. So we'll go over some of that, what that means, and where we go from there. In other news, the Biden admin has decided to get into the banking system once again in a way that I'm going to say actually probably looks good from the outside, but it's terrible. Trust me. But we'll talk about that and why this is very little more than a vote buy coming in, so we'll go over some of that. Elon Musk enters Twitter headquarters for the first time, carrying a sink? Because he's supposed to be closing the deal by tomorrow, so we'll go over some of that and where we go with that. And the second railroad union has voted down the deal needed to avert the strike, but no worries, it won't happen until after the midterms. It is going to be all this and more. Welcome into midterm season. I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. It's getting vicious out there, folks. I'm going to tell you that right off the bat. It is getting absolutely vicious right now. I mean, we're looking forward to the points where these Sunday breaks from the Bird app are getting more and more welcome as we go, just because, I mean, I look at some of the things. Like, I had a guy that, he came out there, what was it, Gay Toad, the gay libertarian dude, over on Twitter, commented, he quote tweeted JoJo from Jers, reminding her that he is gay and he apparently gets more support from conservative people, Trump people, and libertarian people than he does from Democrats when they find out about his views on finances and economics. And we had one guy came in, and I mean, everything that he said was pure on propaganda for the left. Like, well, why would you support people that hate you and want to take away your ability to marry and have a job? And but I'm an independent. I'm not affiliated with anybody. And I quote tweeted him out and I said, narrator says, but what we all knew was, in fact, he was affiliated. And then the dude got all offended. He's like, no, I'm not affiliated. I can't vote in I can't vote in the U.S. I said, well, you spew the talking points of one side while demonizing the other side. Dude, you're pretty affiliated. And you told us you were progressive. That's an affiliation flag right there. I'm a progressive, but I'm not affiliated. No, you're affiliated. And you should be institutionalized too. But yeah, it's getting vicious. And when I see some of the anger out there, one of the things that I can say is this is not the activity of a party that's winning. Some of them are cool still. And I actually had one guy where he came out and he jumped down the attack line right away. And I looked up, I said, if you don't like it, go back to your echo chamber. And he's like, oh, okay, well, that's fair. So some of them are a little bit aware. Don't just go jumping on the defensive and go off the defensive and go on the offensive. But yeah, there are just days where I just don't want to be there anymore. And pretty much the only reason I'm there is to promote the show. So you guys do a really good job of that too, by the way. But anyway, that's enough of my Twitter journey. Let's get into it. Let's get started. Before we do, make sure you guys go check out great programming such as The Daily Ignoramus, The Breakdown with Birkenhoff, The R-Rated Conservative, The Porch Boys. Go check out Tweets by Brit, KTZed. KTZed just posted up the Darrell Brooks jury nullification argument. It is a half-an-hour video, otherwise we'd be playing it here. But go check that out. I think it is KTZed is the Twitter name. But yeah, go check that out. Go check out the No Gimmicks podcast, Mr. Behavior, PJ Patriot. Go check out all these great programs of people who are bringing you news and culture by the common man for the common man. That's right. It's better to get your news from people who have had to go through some of the same decisions you do than from people who wear a suit that costs more than your house. And yes, Mr. Fanning, I do include you in that because a lot of those suits on CNN cost more than your lavish life of luxury. But I'm just teasing. I love you, Quest. But with that, we got to get out of it. We've got to get into the news, and we've got to get started. We start with the Dow, which ended the day up yesterday, but barely. The Dow ending at 31,839.11 after closing the previous day at 31,836.27. So just a little bit less than 3 points of rise after taking that big spike up. And the nice part about the previous close having moved off of that is because we can still see what it dropped off of. It did drop briefly underneath the previous close, the close before, and then rose again and then dropped back down pretty much in line with the previous close. So the Dow is flat. By the way, I don't know why I don't have the live chat up. I don't see what you guys are saying. But yeah, that's what we have coming off of that. Looking in at your Bitcoin. The Bitcoin actually flirted with the 21,000 line at one point throughout the day today, rising and then falling and sinking once again. It is on the day down 184.60, but still up, I believe, from yesterday. Let's bring it up to the 5-day and see. Yeah, still up. No, it is down from yesterday. I apologize. So from where we looked at this yesterday, we're probably about here by the time we got to 7 o'clock in the morning. So it did rise again and tumble again. So it does look like there is some movement off of this. It looks like it's some movement in the positive direction. I'm not sure where to pair that and see what's going with that. I'm going to be wondering as we go along here because it does look like we will be getting new numbers for quarter 3 within the next couple days. They actually could pop up here today, and we'll see what the Dow has to say about them to see if we actually had some growth. I know the Atlanta Fed is predicting 2.9. I don't think that I can see that happening, but we'll see what happens with that. And on your gas prices. I went back to Gas Buddy just for the fun of it, just to see what the low prices were and seeing where they were going with that. And also because I forgot and grabbed Gas Buddy instead of the map because, you know, sometimes muscle memory takes over. But again, we're not seeing a lot on the Isthmus and Madison proper. And we are seeing a lot more going on some of the outsides. DeForest is 338, but otherwise we see a 339 flat across. Let's actually do this the right way. Instead of letting the muscle memory take over and just going back to Gas Buddy. Because we do have that technology. Let's actually pan this out and see what Gas Buddy doesn't want you to see. We've got 340 on the far east side, 340 on the far west side, 350 at the BP on the far west side. So that's ticking up just a little bit. The Amoco on the Isthmus is at 346. The Quick Trip on the outside of the Isthmus is at 350. The Quick Trip that was 350 yesterday is actually, 350 yesterday is down to 348. And the BP next door is also at 348. So a little bit of a balance. It does look like it is staying somewhat steady down here. Madison, for the first time in a while, is more expensive than the Janesville area, which I'm still excited for because that means that I don't have to go spend money in Dane County to get the cheaper gas, but that is what we see coming from that. Let's see what IBD has to say for the morning. Some live chat back up here, see what you guys are doing. And let's see what Investors Business Daily has to say. Dow Futures Meta continues, Tech Titan. Advertisement, commercial. Meta continues, Tech Titan meltdown, Apple on deck. From Ed Carson. Dow futures rose early Thursday, while S&P and the Nasdaq fell. Treasury yields moved higher. Meta plunged on earnings, though its spending splurge lifted several big tech suppliers. Apple and Amazon are on deck Thursday night. The market rally had big intraday swings Wednesday, but the major indices ultimately closed near session lows. The Nasdaq fell sharply on Microsoft and Google earnings. Some more stocks flash buy signals, including Enphase Energy, Wingstop, and Rollins. Man, I could go for Wingstop right now. Dude, I have not had Wingstop since I left Kenosha. There was one in Madison. I don't know where it was. When I worked in Madison, I looked it up. But being not familiar with Madison yet at the time, like, that was within my first few weeks of living in the Madison area, I looked it up. Because I like Wild Wings, I do. You know, a lot of people are like one or the other for Wild Wings or Wingstop. I like both a lot. I like the barbecue sauces and the garlic sauces at Wild Wings better. But the Parmesan garlic dry rub that they use at Wingstop, and the fact that the wings at Wingstop are massive compared to Wild Wings. I like them both equally. I really like Wingstop, and you know, there was one right on Highway 50 in Kenosha I used to go to when I could afford it, but I was really poor when I lived in Kenosha. Like, really, really, really poor. And when I moved out to Madison, it's just, yeah, again, I found that it was there. I looked at the menu. They didn't have Eat Street or DoorDash or anything yet at the time, so I never got to eat there, but man, I miss Wingstop. Side note. Separately, Tesla reportedly faces a criminal probe over its self-driving claims. Don't drive the self-driving vehicle, guys. Meta, Wolfspeed, Ford Motor Company, Impinj, Molina Health, Aspen Technology, and ServiceNow reported after the close. Meta tumbled on weak earnings and guidance, but Meta's massive spending plans buoyed several chip and networking firms, including Nvidia and Arista Networks. Wolfspeed stock plunged on its guidance. Aspen Technology, ServiceNow, and Impinj were big earnings winners. Molina Health popped. Ford fell slightly. Aspen Technology is not yet active. Merck, Shopify, MasterCard, McDonald's, and Caterpillar all topped views, with Merck also raising guidance. Caterpillar rose solidly thanks to the infrastructure bill. With Merck, McDonald's, and Shopify also higher. MasterCard fell modestly. All eyes will soon turn to tonight, with Apple on tap, along with Amazon and biotech giant Vertex Pharmaceuticals. Apple and Amazon fell back from their 50-day line on Wednesday. Vertex is in a buy zone. Vertex and Wingstop are on the IBD leaderboard. Wolf is on the leaderboard watch list. Enphase Energy is on the IBD 50. Vertex, Molina Health, and Enphase are on the IBD Big Cap 20. Enphase was Wednesday's IBD stock of the day. Apparently there is a criminal probe. Tesla faces a criminal probe over its self-driving claims. Reuters reported Wednesday. The Justice Department probe started last year and is not close to reaching any conclusions. Garland, buying Twitter. Excuse me. I got something in my throat there. Political enemies. Oh, sorry. Didn't see you there. The criminal probe comes amid an ongoing expanding autopilot probe by the National Highway Traffic and Safety Administration. The new criminal probe didn't seem to affect Tesla. Shares closed up 1% to 224.64 off session highs as the market faded from late morning peaks. Meanwhile, Tesla CEO Elon Musk dropped by Twitter headquarters and changed his Twitter bio to Chief Twit, with all signs pointing to his $44 billion takeover closing by Friday evening. Twitter stock rose 1.2 on Wednesday to $53.42, up 7% so far this week and just below the $54.20 price tag. Twitter rose 1% to $53.90 overnight as the New York Stock Exchange said Twitter would be delisted at Friday's close. That's right, it's going private, so we'll see what happens with that. On the futures, Dow futures rose 0.7 versus fair value, with Cat, Merck, and McDonald's helping. S&P fell slightly. Nasdaq sank 0.5%. As Meta plunged, while Now, which was, that's the stock symbol. What was the Now? Let's go back up here and check. ServiceNow. While ServiceNow soared, the 10-year yield rose 5 points to 4.06. The European Central Bank hiked rates by 75 points as expected. Chinese cities are stepping up restrictions amid rising pox cases. U.S.-listed Chinese stocks were pointed lower. At 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time, the Commerce Department will release its first estimate for third quarter GDP. Economists expect a 2.3% annualized gain after slim declines in the prior 2 quarters. September durable goods orders and weekly jobless claims will also be released at this time. 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. That was 26 minutes ago. GDP, quarter 3. Well, their first estimate's actually looking good right now. 2.6 is what they're saying for quarter 3. U.S. GDP accelerated at a 2.6% pace in quarter 3, better than expected as growth turns positive for the first time this year. The U.S. economy posted its first positive growth for 2022 in the third quarter, at least temporarily easing inflation fears, the Bureau of Economic Analysis reported on Thursday. GDP, a sum of all the goods and services produced from July through September, increased at a 2.6% annualized pace for the period, against the Dow estimate for a 2.3%. That reading follows consecutive negative quarters to start the year, meeting a commonly accepted definition of a recession, though the National Bureau of Economic Research is generally considered the arbiter of downturns and expansions. Again, basically, we changed the language. This is going to affect the midterms, by the way, because number one, there's going to be a victory lap coming on Twitter, and all the economists are going to say, Biden saved the economy once again. I don't think that he did. A couple of the problems that we have with this is we were at a situation where GDP really didn't have anywhere to go but up. But realistically, I mean, this surprises me, just looking around. And maybe there might be an East Coast or a West Coast thing or an avenue on top of all that, but I look around here, what I see in southern Wisconsin, and jobs that are going unfilled and people reaching out to far, far away cities to try to pull people in and import people. I don't think that... I have problems with this number. I'm going to come out and say that. Let's see, the growth came in part due to a narrowing trade deficit, which economists expected and considered to be a one-off occurrence that won't be repeated in future quarters. GDP gains also came from increases in consumer spending, non-residential fixed investment, and government spending. What increased consumer spending is actually happening? Again, I'm looking around at the department stores and I see a lot of people in the food section, but not a lot of people in the housewares, TVs, and sections like that. You guys might be seeing something different than what I'm seeing here. I admit, because I became poor again over this last bout of inflation, that I'm only looking at a very narrow scope of things. I'm not really going out and buying things. But we are seeing 2.6, so, well, read a little bit more into that, see what happens, and, well, we'll see the victory lap going over on Twitter. But what I did want to use as my second finance article before we realized that that was coming off here is the PayPal thing. Because they did it. They put it back in when nobody was looking, or when they thought that nobody was looking. Now, I've got screenshots here, but I also have the actual terms of use. So we can read it right from the PayPal website. End wokeness is the first one that tweets out, PayPal's $2,500 misinformation fine is back. Pass it on. And he is the one that actually linked to the terms of service here. But if you look down in here, we'll open this up. PayPal user agreement. If you are a seller and receive funds for transactions that violate the acceptable use policy, then in addition to being subject to the above actions, you will be liable to PayPal for the amount of PayPal's damages caused by your violation of the acceptable use policy. You acknowledge and agree that $2,500 US dollars per violation of the acceptable use policy is presently a reasonable minimum estimate of PayPal's actual damages, including but not limited to internal administrative costs incurred by PayPal to monitor and track violations, damage to PayPal's brand and reputation, and penalties imposed upon PayPal by its business partners resulting from a user's violation. considering all currently existing circumstances, including the relationship of the sum to the range of harm to PayPal that reasonably could be anticipated because due to the... Does this continue next? No, that's the next thing. So we'll read a little bit on there. Like I said, I've got the actual terms of use there. The Gay Republican also tweeting out, just an FYI, PayPal put the $2,500 fine back into its terms of service. As soon as the outcry died down, please retweet to raise awareness. Maybe this was just another accident. Hashtag delete PayPal. So what it sounds like, and we can go a little bit further on this, penalties imposed by PayPal by its business partners resulting from a user's violation, considering all currently existing circumstances, including the relationship of the sum to the range of harm to PayPal that reasonably could be anticipated because due to the nature of the violations of the acceptable use policy, actual damages would be impractical or extremely difficult to calculate. PayPal may deduct such damages directly from any existing balance in any PayPal account you control. Delete PayPal. Now, for most of you, for Gaines, for Helton, for Quest, for Job49, who are not actually creators, this is not going to affect you. And what I mean by that, this would have, if I had deleted mine already, affected me. Maybe not, because I can actually somehow manage to stay within the terms of use of everybody by saying honk honk and wink wink and nudge nudge, and this is totally what happened, and we don't question the narrative around here, that kind of thing. I can dance around the terms of service, but for somebody like my good friend Stephen Ignoramus, who likes to say the N-word on air, or the Porch Boys, if they had a PayPal, while Midget B ran around streaming N's and F's and J's, or for people who are getting PayPal, who have questions about a certain medicinal treatment that nobody can question, they're subject to this because, in essence, like, the link is still there. I haven't taken it out of the Nightbot. I haven't taken it out of the Nightbot. I almost said the Restream bot, but that's the one that I accidentally muted yesterday. As far as, by the way, I should actually probably check and see if that's working. Okay, yes, that is working again. If you would have hit that link that was in the live chat going through the Nightbot before, you would have got, basically I'm selling you a service. It's a donation, but I'm still selling you a service. I'm selling you news every day. And then somebody comes down and hears that J. Edgar doesn't believe that he needs to be jabbed. He didn't fall in line with everybody else. And while he told everybody else if they wanted the jab to get it, and if they did not to get it, it was the fact that he told them not to get it that's evil and horrible, and we should all boycott PayPal because PayPal platforms him. And the thing that really gets me about this is the fact that they don't seem to care about the rest of us coming out here and boycotting over the fact that they're doing this stupid crap. But they're considering damages if a left-wing mob comes out and starts boycotting them. And that's, it's dystopian the way that they put the language here. Let's read through that again. Minimal estimate of PayPal's actual damages. For every single time you say that the medicine that cannot be questioned should be questioned. We'll use that for an example. Including but not limited to internal administrative costs incurred by PayPal to monitor and track violations, which means them paying somebody to sit there and watch your stream and make sure that you're a good little boy and you say what it is you're supposed to say. Damage to PayPal's brand and reputation, aka the left-wing boycott. The penalties imposed upon PayPal by its business partners, resulting from a user's violation. The investors divesting because of the left-wing Twitter mob. Boycott mob. Considering all currently existing circumstances, including the relationship of the sum to the range of harm to PayPal that reasonably could be anticipated, because due to the nature of the violations of the acceptable use policy, actual damages would be impractical or extremely difficult to calculate. We have no idea how much this is going to cost, but we're just going to pin you for $2,500. And yes, we're looking at screenshots on both of these. But I want to remind you that this is the actual link. I'll put it in the chat for you. So you can see it for yourselves right there in the chat. And there it is. Liquidated damages of $2,500 per violation, which may be debited directly from your PayPal accounts as outlined in the user agreement. Once again, one of the big things that I say with this is the fact that for the majority of you, this is not going to affect you as the purchaser. But do keep in mind that they do want to pin down your favorite creator. That's why I said, that's why I deleted mine. I encourage you to do the same. I'm not going to force you. I'm not going to say, stop listening. Get out of my chat unless you delete your PayPal. I'm not going to be like that. I know there are people, and it was hard, by the way, to delete my PayPal. I'm going to come right out and say it was a difficult situation to come out and delete my PayPal because my Paramount Plus was tied to my PayPal. My Zoom was tied to my PayPal, which, by the way, I've got to get in contact with them because I thought I went back down to the free plan, and now they're yelling at me saying, we couldn't process your last payment. I went onto their website and downgraded myself, because I hadn't been using it, downgraded myself to the free plan for them. And now I'm getting all these, we can't process your payment emails. Like, there shouldn't be a payment, dude. We're using the free version temporarily. So, related transactions involving narcotics, steroids, certain controlled substances, and other products that present a risk to consumer safety. Drug paraphernalia, cigarettes, items that encourage, promote, facilitate, instruct others to engage in illegal activity. Stolen goods, including digital and virtual goods. The promotion of hate, violence, racial or other forms of intolerance that is discriminatory, or the financial exploitation of a crime. As before mentioned, my friend Midget B saying N's, F's, and J's. Items that are considered obscene. Items that infringe or violate copyright, trademark, right of publicity or privacy, or other proprietary rights under the laws of any jurisdiction. Certain sexually oriented materials or services, ammunition, firearms or certain firearm parts or accessories, certain weapons or knives regulated under applicable law. Or relate to transactions that show the personal information of third parties in violation of applicable law, doxing. Support pyramid or Ponzi schemes, matrix programs, or other get-rich-quick schemes in certain multi-level marketing programs. But not all of them. You can still use your PayPal for it works. Are associated with purchases of annuities or lottery contracts, layaway systems, offshore banking, or transactions to finance or refinance debts funded by credit card. Are for the sale of certain items before the seller has control or possession of the item. Are by payments processors to collect payments on behalf of merchants. Are associated with the sale of travelers' checks or money orders, involve currency exchanges. Check cashing businesses involve certain credit repair, debt settlement services, credit transactions or insurance activities. Involve offering or receiving payments for the purpose of bribery or corruption. So, we've got a lot of things going on with that. But again, the big one that goes with that is $2,500 if you do something that they don't like. So that's what we see coming off of that. And yes, again, I strongly encourage you to close your PayPal. All right, let's talk about what you're all here for, because I know what you're all here for. That first one there I cannot read on YouTube. I can tell you that right off the bat. You can read it on the screen, the first comment, but I can't read that on YouTube. Just in, jury finds Darrell Brooks guilty on all 6 counts of first-degree intentional homicide in Waukesha Christmas parade attack. And a lot of people saying that this is good. Progressiving to insanity. Don't worry, Kim Kardashian will start a campaign to free him in a few years. Some people decrying the fact that we have no death penalty in this state. And the Defiant L's, Kyle Rittenhouse deserves an award for his melodramatic performance on the witness stand. Or USA Today, Wisconsin Christmas parade defendant gives tearful opening statement. 2 sides to every story. Finance back Carilla says, wait, I thought it was a rogue SUV that killed him. Let's read. And I got 3 in a row from Fox 6 because, again, this was a hard one to follow because there weren't a lot of people covering it. But starting with Fox 6, Darrell Brooks' verdict, guilty on all counts in Waukesha Christmas parade attack. From Brett Lemoine, Sam Kramer, and Fox 6 digital news team. We have video too, by the way. A jury found Darrell Brooks guilty on all counts Wednesday in the Waukesha Christmas parade attack that took place November 21st, 2021. The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours. This after more than a 3-week trial that was perhaps unlike any other we've seen. Brooks was convicted on all 76 counts, including 6 counts of first-degree intentional homicide. As the verdicts were read in open court, someone in the gallery yelled, "Burn in hell, you piece of radio edit," and was removed from the courtroom. After the verdicts were read, Judge Jennifer Duro polled the jury, and each of them confirmed the verdicts as read in court were true. When the judge asked Brooks if he was satisfied with the polling, he said no. The courts accepted the verdicts and entered a judgment of conviction on all counts. Duro thanked the jury for its service and discharged its members. Duro said the court would revoke bond for Brooks, who never posted the $5 million sum. The parties were ordered to return to court on Monday, October 31st, to schedule Brooks' sentencing. The judge said that she would allow people to appear via Zoom. Brooks initially faced 83 charges in the case before the trial in late August. Judge Duro sided with the defense and struck counts 78 through 83, 6 counts of homicide by vehicle, use of controlled substance. The judge ruled there could not be multiple punishments for the same crime. So, looks like we've actually got several clips of this. So let's look at some of this. First off, guilty on all counts.
Find the defendant, Darrell E. Brooks, guilty.
76 different charges, all the same verdict.
Burn in hell, you
Justice coming in the Waukesha Christmas parade attack.
Justice is not a big enough word, I guess.
Now a new step towards healing for the dozens of families and a community impacted by the tragedy.
We're stronger than him, and it's been proven today.
We begin at 9 with the end. Darrell Brooks found guilty on all 76 charges against him. 68 people were struck, 6 killed when he drove through the Waukesha Christmas parade.
Today's verdicts bring a sense of relief for victims, they tell us, their families, and the community as a whole. We have team coverage for you tonight from Waukesha. Let's start with our Sam Kramer, who's been at the courthouse throughout the 18-day trial.
Well, hi there, Steph and Ben. Prosecutors promised in their opening statements they'd be efficient in presenting their case against Brooks, and it appears they were. The jury deliberated for right around 3 hours before ending an 11-month wait for justice.
All right, I will read each one into the record.
In just a matter of seconds.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Darrell E. Brooks, Guilty of first-degree intentional homicide.
A defendant so defiant, so disruptive,
What type of statement is that?
was suddenly out of words as the judge read count by count.
Guilty of first-degree recklessly endangering safety.
His silence never changed.
Hey.
The jury found him guilty on all 76 counts for his attack on last year's.
All right, let's move on to some of these, because I don't just want to sit and watch the newscast. Let's see if... I don't know if this is going to be the same one.
76 signed verdicts and 76
No, that's the
unsigned.
32-minute full clip of that. Jennifer Dureau thanks the jury for its service.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of myself, the citizens of Waukesha County, and both parties here, I want to thank you for the time and attention that you've spent on this case. Your service in this case is now concluded. There is no requirement that you maintain secrecy concerning what happened in the jury room, but you do not have to discuss the case with anyone or answer any questions about it. On behalf, again, of the court and all of the parties, we thank you for your service over the last 3.5 weeks. You are discharged and free to go.
That's going to play in a couple seconds here, but I mean, the guy's looking down there with his head in his hands. My first question with that is, what did you think was going to happen? Did you actually think
that there are 76 signed?
that we were... Did you think that we were going to overturn this, that you were going to get away with this? That's my big question with that. Did you think that this was going to happen? Sue Opper offers reaction to the guilty verdict in the Brooks case.
And foremost, our thoughts and concerns remain with the victims involved in this tragedy and their families.
I apologize for this only being one channel and quiet.
Although the defendant devastated our community, the people of the city of Waukesha, Waukesha County, and beyond demonstrated tremendous resiliency. We are so grateful for the first responders, citizens, and medical professionals who sprang into action and immediately rendered aid and saved so many lives that day. We appreciate the jury for their work and dedication to justice. We commend the police officers and citizen witnesses who testified or were prepared to testify and asked to relive the events of that horrific day. We are satisfied that this defendant has been held accountable for his actions. He now faces imprisonment of 6 consecutive life sentences plus 859 years of confinement. There is much healing ahead for the victims and for our community, but we hope today's result is a step further along that path. Remain strong, Waukesha. Thank you.
That's going to play again in just a second. Yeah, I don't know how some of these news conferences get recorded into only one channel.
Allergy. Fast, 24-hour steroid-free allergy relief, so you can Astapro and go.
Okay, what's playing? No idea. Let's see. Police chief reacts to the guilty verdict. We'll do this one, I think, in...
2 days. We'll never forget. November 21 of...
That'll be the last one, because they all seem to be in single channel.
Tragic day. And October 26th of 2022. Why October 26th? Because justice was served today. I want to say thank you and praises to this community. I want to say thank you in the resiliency and strength of the families and victims who were involved in it and were impacted by this event. The investigation team, I want to send a personal thank you to the District Attorney's Office, Sue Opper, Leslie, Zach, and everyone on that team who assisted in this successful prosecution. I want to say thank you to the jury and the court process and the court proceedings and everyone that was involved in the court who found this defendant guilty, which is just and right. That defendant's actions did not define this great community. It refined us in our resolve and our strength in and being Waukesha strong. Thank you.
All right, so that is the reaction from some of this. Well, from the beginning. Looks we do have some counter reaction. Let me get this started playing so I can shut it up. All right. CNN actually covering this. Man who drove SUV into Waukesha Christmas parade found guilty of intentional homicide. From Eric Levinson, Bill Kirkos, and Brad Parks. Jarrell Brooks was found guilty on all 6 counts of first-degree intentional homicide on Wednesday for driving his SUV into a crowd on a Christmas parade attendees in Waukesha, Wisconsin last November, killing 6 and wounding dozens more. He faces a mandatory sentence of life in prison for the convictions. 6 counts of life in prison. Served consecutively. Brooks, 40, was also convicted of 61 counts of recklessly endangering safety with the use of a dangerous weapon, 6 counts of fatal hit and run, 2 counts of felony bail jumping, and 1 count of misdemeanor domestic battery, a clean sweep for the prosecution. Brooks represented himself in court and has been combative throughout the trial, repeatedly speaking over the judge to make inane comment and outlandish arguments. Yet as the stream of guilty verdicts were read Wednesday, he looked down, put his head in his hands, and sat silently. The trial comes less than a year after he drove the red SUV through the crowd in Waukesha's Christmas parade on November 21st, killing an 8-year-old boy and several members of the Dancing Grannies group. Brooks had been released from jail less than 2 weeks prior in a domestic abuse case on a $1,000 bail that prosecutors later acknowledged was inappropriately low. In that case, he allegedly ran over a woman who said that she's the mother of his child, according to the court documents. Prosecutors said in the closing arguments Tuesday that he intentionally drove through the crowd at significant speeds and hit 68 parade goers, turning a joyous afternoon into a horrific one. He reached speeds of approximately 30 miles an hour. That's intentional. He plowed through 68 different people. 68. How can you hit 1 and keep going? How can you hit 2 and keep going? DA Susan Opper said. His intent I do have to prove, and I submit without any doubt that there's overwhelming evidence that this was an intentional act by Jarrell Brooks and an act of utter disregard for human life. In his own closing arguments, Brooks attempted to raise questions about the vehicle and about his intent. He repeatedly said there had been misconceptions and lies told about him during the trial. I've never heard of someone trying to intentionally hurt someone while attempting to blow their horn while attempting to alert people of their presence, Brooks said. Jurors deliberated on Tuesday for just under 2 hours and then resumed again Wednesday before quickly reaching its verdict. The family of Virginia Sorensen, the 79-year-old killed in the attack, thanked the jury for the verdicts. We've been praying for this day for a long time, her son Marshall Sorensen said. This morning, my 5-year-old daughter came up to me and handed me this necklace with my mom's ashes in it, and she told me to take my mom with us to the sentencing, so she was with us today, he continued. I'm going to go on a limb and say that probably didn't happen. My mom always used to tell me when we were kids and our family, she always said, angels watch over you guys. So I just want to say, angels watch over you guys. And turn on those blue lights tonight, which we will be talking about. I've got the article that goes with that. Some after the fact commentary on some of this that I do want to put down. Because we can all breathe a sigh of relief that the justice system actually did its job. For once. We can all do that. I don't think that this is over, and I do think that somewhere in short order there is going to be an appeal that is brought forward on this. And I want to talk about that for just a second. Some of what we saw, and I mean, we mocked and made fun of Brooks for his insanity in the courtroom. I've shared the Dale Gribble meme around talking about the gold fringe flag. I've talked about sovereign citizens. That was one of his big things with that. I unfortunately believe this is an appealable case. Now, finding a judge that will take up the appeal is going to be a little bit more of a challenge given the severity of the crime. Because, and this is Brooks is either certifiably insane or certifiably a genius in this point, because it did look more like he was looking to try to annoy the jury, so they would come in and he could try to demonstrate bias in the jury because they didn't want to be there. They thought that he was a bad person for his antics in court. Will a judge take that up? I'm leaning towards no, actually. Like 75% no. But that does seem to be the strategy. Especially when we come out here. I know they tried to get the venue changed, and honestly, I would have been in favor of that, because I think that we would have been able to get this in any jury in the state of Wisconsin. But I don't know what's going to happen with this. I know that he is probably going to go back and spend the next 300 years of his life in prison, or until he dies, whichever comes first. And yes, as was pointed out, there were less, let's say more cost-effective ways to deliver justice for this particular one, where everybody saw him do it. And again, where he's going to try to get an appeal, not necessarily on the fact that he didn't do it, but on the punishment on a technicality, because they were biased against me because of my courtroom antics. But regardless, I do anticipate that this is probably not going to be the last time in our lives that we hear Darrell Brooks Jr. His mother responds, and we don't have text for this, we only have video. Get a refresh on this. And let's have a listen.
Understand mental illness and understand people who are mentally ill are hurting. They're trapped. And a lot of them don't know the way I will show compassion to families who have loved ones that are suffering from mental illness. A lot of them are ashamed to even talk about it, or they say he's crazy and don't want to have anything to do with them. But you need to, those people need help more than anything. Seek out treatment where there is. Speak up for them, be an advocate for them. And then when you see people out in the street, you see them acting, and you just laugh at them, joking, and you turn away, stop and say a prayer. Because I sent Darrell early on a poem written by Maya Angelou called I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. And I learned that poem in the 7th grade for Black History Month. And I never thought about that poem again. And the Lord brought it to my memory. And I remember back when I was a child, my grandma had a pet parakeet named Jerry. And I remember that so vividly. She would walk to the cage and Jerry would sing. He had a beautiful singing voice. And we all thought Jerry was happy because he would sing and twerk, and his cage was right in front of the window where he can look out in the backyard. And we thought, but then when Lord brought that point to me, I pulled it up again and I read it again. And I realized that bird wasn't singing because it was happy. That bird was singing because he wanted to be out of that cage and be free. And I told Darrell, I said, you're this caged bird. Mental illness has clipped your wings, and those prison bars is going to be your cage. And no one's going to hear you singing, it's going to fall on deaf ears. But I told him that, he keeps singing till someone hears him. Hopefully this will bring awareness to mental illness via our senators and our governors and elected officials, court, police. And when these people come before the penal system, instead of locking them up, say, hey, what can we do to help this person become mentally well? That's what needs to happen.
Yeah, I think Ron is actually right. Another person not willing to take responsibility for raising another monster. When I was listening to this, though, I was thinking of some other things that went along with this, because I know we talked a little bit about what could happen to him in prison. One of the things that actually occurred to me in the midst of talking about this today, I didn't think about this until now, is the fact that it was actually because Ron called him a mass murderer in the chat. I have to wonder if he's not going to be offed in prison by somebody who's controlling the narrative from one direction or another right now, because, you know, we're supposed to be led to believe that mass murders can only be committed by white people and by scary, long, black AR rifles. And here this guy just committed a mass murder with a vehicle, which is the talking point that the opponents of gun control keep bringing up. It's about the evil intent in the heart, not the weapon. So there actually might be a chance where this guy gets met in the showers by somebody who is in a very clean prison uniform and doesn't quite look like he belongs in the prison, and that none of the inmates ever see again after that point. From Fox 6, Milwaukee again, Darrell Brooks' mother wants to curl up and die after the verdict. From Mary Stoker Smith. Dawn Woods, Darrell Brooks' mother, spoke with Fox 6 News in the hours after a Waukesha County jury convicted her son on 76 charges. Woods referred to her son as a caged bird and said that she hopes the guilty verdicts handed down by the jury on Wednesday and this case in general will raise awareness of mental illness. Yeah, it's mental illness when Darrell Brooks Jr. does it, but it's the evil guns and evil white people. When a Hispanic young man goes into a school in Uvalde. After deliberating for less than 3 hours, the jury found Brooks guilty of 6 counts. We know that. People need to understand mental illness and understand people who are mentally ill are hurting, said Dawn Woods. They're trapped, and a lot of them don't know a way out. Show compassion. The families who have loved ones that are suffering from mental illness, a lot of them are ashamed to even talk about it, or they say he's crazy and don't want to have anything to do with him. But those people need to help more than anything. Seek out treatment where there is. Speak up for them. Be an advocate for them. And then when you see people out in the streets, you see them acting and you're just laughing and joking, stop and say a prayer. All right, last one on this topic. A video again from Fox 6 because the blue lights are lighting up. Blue lights light up Waukesha after Brooks' Christmas parade attack conviction. Let's listen to what Fox 6 has to say.
A resurgence of the Waukesha Strong movement.
Madeline O'Neill live in downtown Waukesha. Maddie, it started with honking outside the courthouse right after the verdict was read. Now there's a very visible show of support tonight.
Well, really, since the parade attack, blue lights like the ones you can see on the business behind me have really become a symbol of strength and togetherness. After such an emotional day today, victims of the parade attack are asking people to keep lights like this on tonight.
It was a joyous event that turned into a horror movie.
It was the kind of real-life horror.
And I heard the band and everything else, and then all of a sudden, in a split second when I'm dropping off in order, I hear blood-curdling screams.
That casts a terrible shadow.
We were put on the map, but not for a good reason.
But just as quickly as the Christmas parade attack happened, Waukesha responded.
We had been involved with the parade and the sheltering of the people, and so it wasn't just a natural for us.
Martha Merrill's Books and Toys handed out blue lights after the parade.
And it was a symbol that could be seen anytime you drove through Waukesha.
It's a symbol of strength with renewed meaning.
I think you're going to see more of the blue lights.
Now that a verdict casts away any shadow of doubt about who was behind the attack, a jury finding Darrell Brooks guilty on all counts.
I know that this will give us healing. This is another step forward in this process.
We've been praying for this day for a long time.
On the day of the verdict, the son of Virginia Sorensen, a dancing granny and one of the 6 people killed, carries his mother's ashes with him and her words.
She always said, angels watch over you guys. So I just want to say, angels watch over you guys and turn on those blue lights.
A verdict can't heal the scars.
You can feel like that ridge on your arm or your leg or wherever that was, and little by little that seems to fade, but you don't forget it.
But after the darkness,
I keep those blue lights on tonight.
victims and community members say it offers some light.
And I hope that the world now can see all of us healing from it and getting justice for all of the victims.
The Dancing Grannies tell us tonight that they're still working on a public statement after the verdict, but in the meantime say they're taking the time to process this, to grieve, to regroup after such an emotional year. Now we know that the Christmas parade is returning to Main Street here on December 4th. The theme this year, Peace on Earth. Live in Waukesha, Madeline O'Neill, Fox 6 News.
A whole city lit in blue tonight. Maddie, thanks.
So, and this is going to play in just a second, a blue light is, actually it's a nationally recognized symbol. I don't know why they used it in Waukesha, why they used that particular light
Now
for it.
at 9.
We, the jury, find...
Shut up, you. But that was autism awareness, was blue lights. So, like, if you put if you've got a front porch light or something, you would put a blue light in there for autism awareness. Why they chose to do that was a symbol of Waukesha Strong, but I don't know why they went with the blue light for that. All right, let's talk about government instead. Now that we're done talking about Darrell Brooks, before I do say something that'll get me shut down on YouTube, because it's going through my head. From the Associated Press, with Americans feeling pinched, Biden targets junk fees. From Kenny Sweet. With time running out before the election, President Biden highlighted his admin's push to crack down on the so-called junk fees that banks and other companies charge their customers. The announcement comes after months of high inflation have eaten away at American savings and made the economy the top issue for voters. Biden was joined by Rohit Chopra, the director of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the nation's financial watchdog agency created after the Great Recession. So it's an Obama-era program. The Bureau is targeting overdraft fees charged by banks as well as bad check fees, which are levied against a bank customer when a check isn't valid. The Bureau's guidance would make it illegal for banks to charge an overdraft fee on a transaction when a customer's account shows a positive balance at the time of the purchase, or when they withdraw money from their account. Prior to the pandemic, banks collectively charged their customers roughly $15 billion in overdraft and bounce check fees, according to the Bureau estimate. The Bureau estimates that its new enforcement push on junk fees will save Americans roughly $3 billion in fees annually. Joe, these steps will immediately start saving Americans collectively billions of dollars in fees, Biden said. Roughly 2 weeks away from the midterms, Biden is using public events to show his admin is trying to reduce costs for families. After 2 years, keep that in mind when you go to the polls. That push comes as high inflation, averaging 8.2% over the past year, has been a drag on the president's approval rating and put Democrats at a disadvantage with voters. Back in 2021, the economy emerged from the pandemic. Biden tried to minimize the risks of lasting inflation, but continued pandemic shutdowns and Russia's invasion of Ukraine have pushed up prices globally, a challenge that the U.S. is primarily trying to address by having the Federal Reserve raise interest rates. Banks have long been criticized for the high fees that they charge customers when accounts go temporarily negative. Relenting after years of public pressure, banks have reined in their overdraft fee practices. Most notably, Bank of America reduced its overdraft fee from $35 to $10. Other banks have instituted changes to the policy so customers cannot overdraft their accounts, or given repeated warnings that they need to bring their accounts current before a fee is charged. The banking industry responded that it was taking steps to reduce fees on customers before the White House stepped in. There was a notification. It says, After a very short overnight deliberation, the sovereign citizens movement of Darrell Brooks ends with him being the most sovereign person in prison. Contemporary starts right now. There was a notification. These changes were made without regulatory or legislative intervention. Hold on, I missed a paragraph. The banking industry responded that it was taking steps to reduce fees on customers before the White House stepped in. These changes were being made without regulatory or legislative intervention, said Lindsey Johnson, president and CEO of the Consumer Bankers Association, the trade and lobby group for the nation's biggest retail bank like Wells Fargo and Bank of America. The CFPB is targeting bounce check fees, which occur less frequently nowadays because Americans have largely moved away from writing paper checks and largely use peer-to-peer payment platforms like Zelle, Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App. These fees are typically between $10 and $19 according to the Bureau and are charged to customers depositing the check. Charging the depositor penalizes the person who would not anticipate the check would bounce, while doing nothing to deter the originator from writing bad checks, the Bureau said in a statement. The Bureau did not have an estimate of how much Americans pay in bad check fees because banks do not publicly disclose those figures in regulatory filings. Biden also highlighted a number of other fees the admin plans to go after, which includes resort fees, processing fees for concert tickets, and various fees charged by airlines. We're just getting started, Biden said. And yet the people that follow Biden accuse us, those who just want to be left alone by the government, of wanting a dictator. The White House's push is also a public display of support for CFPB days after the Fifth Circuit ruled that the Bureau is funded. The way the Bureau is funded is unconstitutional. The conservative-leaning court ruled that because the CFPB receives its funding from the Federal Reserve and not through congressional appropriations, the way the Bureau writes its rules and regulations is unconstitutional. The court case, which could wind up in the Supreme Court, is the latest in a long list of conservative and Republican challenges to the Bureau's structure. Within hours, Republicans attacked the Bureau's announcement. It's no surprise that an out-of-control and unaccountable agency, which the Fifth Circuit recently ruled as unconstitutional, has chosen to sidestep the congressionally mandated rulemaking process to change the rules of the road, said Senator Pat Toomey, and the top Republican on the Senate Banking Committee, in a statement. So there's a lot of stuff to go over with this. There is a ton of stuff to go over with this. And the first thing that I'm going to say when I talk about this is I understand where this is detrimental to the poor person. Trust me, I've been poor before. Trust me when I remind you, I have been extremely poor before. Like, to a ridiculous degree, extremely poor before. And I understand when you're sitting down there, when you're trying to just make the ends meet and you unanticipate, or you're just not making enough. You write that rent check out there and that clears. But then you also go and grab groceries from a couple different places because you're poor and you're hunting the best bargain. You're hunting their sales. And even going out to Quick Trip for some of your groceries, because around here, if you're going and getting your milk, eggs, butter from the grocery store, you're out of your mind. Quick Trip is lower. And some of the meat is lower too now. They're actually getting to that point too. Not all, but some. But if you're going to the regular grocery store for milk, eggs, and butter, you're out of your mind. When there's a Quick Trip on every third corner that sells them for way less. But it's a sidestep off of that. The point that I'm making when I'm getting with that is those next 3 trips to the grocery store and the gas that you needed to get back and forth to work to get your meager pittance all three of those hit at the same time after your account went negative, and the next thing you know, you've got 35, 35, 35. That's $140 that you've got to try to figure out where to come up with. I understand where when people are struggling with it, but this is not the way to do this, and I'm going to explain to you why. And this again is showing where the Biden admin is the administration of big business and big banks. Now, a lot of their supporters are not going to see it this way. They're not going to understand what's going on with this. Because all they see is, I can overdraw, it's not going to cost me an arm and a leg to do so, instead of being financially responsible and making sure that you don't overdraw. I mean, that would be the way to do it. Somebody on YouTube, can you help me out there? But when we see something like this, when we look at what's happening with this, when you go to the big banks, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, BMO Harris would be another one, Chase. What's another really big one out there? I said Goldman Sachs, maybe. When you go to one of these big banks like this, they'll either jack up the interest rates on the loans, or drop the savings rate, which I don't know how much lower you can drop your savings account rate anymore because it's pretty gosh darn low already. But yeah, they'll do one of those two things. Raise the interest rates, they'll absorb the cost. They do enough in volume that they can even jack the interest rate to a point where it's barely noticeable by anybody. You add an extra 0.1% onto somebody's interest rate. That's really not going to change how much they pay in the long run. They'll absorb the cost. But if you go down to the Bank of Small Town America, and I'm not going to use any names of anything, but I think most of your bigger small town municipalities have a bank of their own. If you walk down into, what can I use as an example that's not going to dox me? Oh, there's actually let's use a local example that's southern Wisconsin specific, but still is based up in Madison. If you go to like Black Hawk Credit Union, they can absorb fees like that. While they do a fair volume of transactions and interest, etc., to the local southern Wisconsin area, they absolutely do a fair amount of that. You know, when you look at Chase, BMO, Wells Fargo, etc., they're nationwide. They can spread the extra costs that are incurred by this across every single customer that they have all across the nation, and they are literally all across the nation. Black Hawk Credit Union serves 12 counties and can only draw a customer pool from 12 counties. A lot of these small town banks are probably going to close up over this. And it's the same thing because they're going after various other junk fees and things like that. And they're talking cell phone fees, airline fees, etc. Once again, making it more difficult for competition to rise up. So I don't like any of this. It's just another instance of the federal government getting involved in a place where they don't belong. Biden to take on junk fees as part of his plan to combat inflation. Well, that's not going to work. Looks like we've got a speech. Is this the speech where they're talking about junk fees?
Administration to reduce or eliminate Last week, the Federal Trade Commission started work on a rule to crack down on unfair and deceptive fees.
All right, let's back this up just a little bit. Not going all the way back to the beginning, but it sounds like he's actually getting into what he was planning on doing here.
Making clear today it's illegal as well. Second, my administration is also making clear surprise overdraft fees are illegal. Listen to how those fees work. And some of you all know this, I mean, because you know from your everyday lives. But you pay a bill and you double check your bank account to make sure before you write the check that you have enough in your account to cover it. You've gotten the money, so you go ahead and you pay. And it turns out your balance wasn't up to date because your bank was slow in processing other charges. And by the time the bank gets around to settling the transaction, you've overdrawn your account. You're charged an overdraft fee that runs around $35 each time. It's not your fault. The bank screwed up. You didn't, the bank did. You had a positive balance when you paid the bill. It's just simply wrong. And today my administration is making clear it's also illegal. Today's actions are going to save consumers more than $1 billion each year. And that's a lot of money back in people's pockets. As Director Chopra shared this morning, that his team is even going further, developing rules and guidance that would take credit card late fees and other banking fees that cost Americans $24 billion a year, take them on. And we're just getting started. There are tens of billions of dollars in other junk fees across the economy, and I've directed my administration to reduce or eliminate them. Last week, the Federal Trade Commission started work on a rule to crack down on unfair and deceptive fees across all industries. Fees that were never disclosed, and there was no way to avoid the fee, like processing fees for concert tickets or like resort fees. When you think you're paying one price to book a hotel and you only find out after you're checking out that there's a resort fee you never heard about that's added to your bill. And the Department of Transportation is going after unfair airline fees. Last summer, if your flight was canceled or delayed, only one top airline guaranteed that you could rebook for free, even because they're the ones that canceled, not you. You didn't fail to show up. They canceled. When Secretary Buttigieg called them out on this, about 10 airlines, now 10 airlines rebook for free. They don't charge the fee. That's progress.
Which, and again, we're pointing out the fact of the obvious, that they were doing that in the free market. Yes, the government gave them a push, but there was no EO or legislative action that forced them to rebook for free. They just looked at this and said, well, American Airlines is doing it. People are going to go to American Airlines. Let's go back and do this too. Actually, I think it was Southwest that was the one that was rebooking for free. But regardless, I understand. And again, where especially if you know you're going into a major recession right now. I know, the Hill. It's rebound. In spite of the fact that most people are predicting that this won't last for into the fourth quarter. It's a rebound. It's a rebound. It was like, what was the picture that I sent out to some of you guys? Oh. There's the anticipation out there that there are going to be overdrafts and fees and things like that because people are getting poorer and poorer. They're coming down and they're spending their last dimes on a number of things. And when I see a direct deposit saying, well, we'll go and give you the funds for your direct deposit 2 days before we even have notification that you're getting your direct deposit, just based on what you average deposit on your direct deposit, I understand how that all works. That just means that, oh, well, you think that you are going to have your kneecaps broken if you don't pay a bill on time anymore because you're that far behind. You're still going to be just as poor as you were before, but you'll be just as poor 2 days earlier. Let's have a look at what the USA Today says the junk fees are from Craig Harris. Joe Biden, CFPB, target junk fees, hoping to ease economic pressure on low-income families. Let's see. I thought the number of Americans without a bank account drops to the lowest level in more than a decade. Ooh, it dropped from 99.9% to 99.8%. What are bank junk fees? Let's start with surprise depositor fee. This occurs when a consumer deposits a check that bounces, resulting in a bank charging a fee of $10 to $19 on the depositor, which that person then passes back along to the customer after they have to go back and collect on it. $25, usually. The CFPB says charging a fee to the depositor penalizes the person who could not anticipate the check would bounce, while doing nothing to deter the originator from writing bad checks. The agency said financial institutions can generally stay on the right side of the law when they employ a more tailored fee policies that charge the depositor fees only in situations where a depositor could have avoided the fee, such as when a depositor repeatedly deposits bad checks from the same originator. A surprise overdraft fee, which may be up to $36, can occur when a customer doesn't reasonably expect that their actions would incur that fee, such as charging penalties when a customer has a positive account balance. I don't buy this, by the way. And then again, I don't know what it is for smaller banks because I do use a relatively larger bank. But what I can say is this is my bank, when I go and check my online balance, A, number one, is typically right in line with what I think my balance is, but B, and more importantly, they show what the actual ledger is versus what's sitting out there pending, what they have a notification for. So I don't buy that a lot of people are getting this. I'm pretty sure a lot of people know that just Biden's coming out here trying to buy votes. This can happen when a bank displays that a customer has sufficient available funds to complete a debit card purchase at the time of the transaction, but the consumer is later charged with an overdraft fee. Well, you can always update your ledger too, by the way. Up in the federal agency said the financial institution relies on complex back-office practices to justify charging the fee. The CFPB in September took action against the Regions Bank for charging surprise overdraft fees known as authorized positive fees, and the bank was ordered to refund the customer at least $141 million and pay $50 million penalty. And then, surprise, surprise, Bank of America went out and bought Regions Bank sometime in the future. Just watch. I bet you that happens at some point here in the near future. Maybe not Bank of America, but somebody jumps in and buys them. Who makes money on the fees? While not part of the CFPB's guidance, the White House also released estimates on how much money transportation, banking, internet, and hospitality companies make on fees. Credit card late payment fees, $12 billion in 2020. Bank overdraft and NSF fees, $15.5 billion in 2019. Hotel resort fees, $2.93 billion in 2018. Airline baggage and change fees, $5.97 billion in 2021. And cable hidden fees, $28 billion in 2019. Which again, I mean, it's all well and good, but I'm going to tell you right off the bat, this is only going to hurt the small competitors. This is not going to hurt the big guys who can just raise your rate a little bit and say, oh, well, if you don't like it, go back to somebody else. Some good news out of New York City. Yeah, we're running up on the clock. And we've got things that I like and things that I hate today, too. From the Associated Press, judge sides with fired New York City trash workers in vaccine dispute. New York City sanitation workers who were fired for not getting vaccinated against the pinko pox should be reinstated and given back pay, a state judge ruled in a decision released on Tuesday. Sitting in Staten Island, State Supreme Court Justice Ralph Porzio held that the city's health commissioner overstepped his authority and violated the workers' due process and equal protections when he barred the workers from their jobs. Porzio also cited Eric Adams' lifting of the vaccine mandate for some private employees earlier this year, notably athletes and entertainers, as evidence that the public worker mandate was arbitrary and unreasonable. There is nothing on the record to support the rationality of keeping a vaccination mandate for public employees while vacating the mandates for private sector employees, or creating a carve-out for certain professions like artists, athletes, or performers, Porzio wrote. This is clearly an arbitrary and capricious action because we are dealing with identical unvaccinated people being treated differently by the same admin agency. The city's law department said Tuesday that it had appealed Porzio's ruling. Porzio rejected the city's argument that the workers' lawsuit should be dismissed because it was filed too late, instead of ruling that the clock started ticking in June when the Department of Sanitation sent letters to the workers offering them their jobs back if they got vaccinated, and not in March when Adams exempted the private sector employees. In an emailed statement, the city's law department said it strongly disagrees with this ruling, as the mandate is firmly grounded in law and is critical to New Yorkers' public health. Adams, a Democrat, announced last month that he would lift the private sector pinko pox vaccination mandate on November 1st, but would keep it in place for the public sector employees. The city implemented a public sector vaccine mandate in October of 2021 and extended it to the private sector in December, just as the pinko pox Ermagerd variant wave began claiming hundreds of lives in the city. It remains the largest place in the U.S. to have made vaccines mandatory as workplace safety measures. Why is this important? Well, because this means that the vaccine mandates are on the cusp of being unconstitutional. That for those of you who lost a job because you wouldn't go back out and get the holy jab, can now run back out and say, hey, let's do something about this. Hey, open up your wallet. How deep are your pockets right now? Which is a good thing. And it's going to make people very wary of trying to do something like this ever again. Let's talk Elon from CNBC. Oh, apparently the New York Post got hacked. Let's put a pin on that. New York Post hack. Well, we'll put that on the stack for tomorrow. Elon Musk carried a sink into Twitter on Wednesday as deal nears close, from Lauren Feiner. With just a few more days left to complete his acquisition of Twitter and stave off a new court date, billionaire Elon Musk walked into the company's San Francisco office on Wednesday with what appeared to be a porcelain bathroom sink in his hands. Oh, okay, I get it now. See, I put this on the stack and I had no idea why he was carrying a sink. Now I get it. You can tell he's got kids because he's got the dad jokes. Entering Twitter HQ, let that sink in, the Tesla and SpaceX CEO tweeted with a video of his entrance. I get it. You got jokes, Elon Musk. A person at the company confirmed to CNBC that Elon was visiting today and noted that there is some internal concern about what will happen to people on foreign worker visas. This person, who declined to be named, discussing internal matters, said the employees are trying to keep working despite all the attention getting paid to the deal, and despite reports that Musk could gut the place with massive layoffs. Some employees say they feel like if he buys it, he can burn it all down if he wants to. Well, I mean, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. I mean, I spend a lot of time on Twitter, don't get me wrong, but I think the people who are most important to me on the site at this point, I've got their numbers. There are only a couple people that I would miss if Twitter went down tomorrow. If Elon Musk just went in and closed it tomorrow. But everybody else on there, I've either got their personal phone numbers or they're in my Discord. So we could go from there. And the only other people then that I would probably miss would be Beck and Right Girl Problems. Oh. And Kay. So 3. There are 3 people that I would miss if Twitter went down tomorrow. Staff in the office got a brief heads up about the visit according to an email shared by reporters from CNN and Ron Helton's favorite publication from his favorite politician, Bloomberg. The sender, whom Bloomberg identified as the Twitter chief marketing officer, Leslie Berland, wrote that Musk would be in the office this week, meeting with folks, walking the halls, and continuing to dive in on the important work you all do. If you're in San Francisco and see him around, say hi. The email also said employees would hear directly from Musk on Friday. A Twitter spokesperson declined to comment on the report or on Musk's tweet. No, there shouldn't be anybody muted on YouTube. Let me scroll up and make sure. No, you're not muted on YouTube. I can see you. I can see you just fine. We don't mute around here. Except when I accidentally muted the Restream bot when I was trying to get after the sex robots. Let's see. Earlier, Musk changed his description on the social media service where he has more than 110 million followers to Chief Twit, which is actually an apt description for the head of Twitter. I see it. I can see your chat. Huh, that's weird. I don't know what's going on with that then. We'll have to do some fixing in the back end.
Each year, these junk fees, in addition, that companies
Why is
charge
Joe Biden
cost
talking in my
Americans
ear?
Tens of billions of dollars, weighing down family budgets and make.
Shut up, you. Alright, anyway, back to Musk. Let's see. Musk has until 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Friday to complete his deal to buy Twitter or again face the proposition of going to trial. Twitter sued Musk when he tried to get out of their $44 billion merger agreement by claiming Twitter had not been forthcoming about spam and bots on its platform, which he claimed would amount to material adverse effect. Twitter has denied this. Well, he's about to find out. Let's see, what else do we have? One from a couple days ago, well, almost a week ago at this point. Elon Musk to gut Twitter, report says. Billionaire Elon Musk will reportedly gut Twitter with massive cuts when he takes over, getting rid of overwhelming majority of the company. The Washington Post, where democracy goes to die in darkness, reported that Musk told prospective investors that he plans to get rid of nearly 75% of Twitter's 7,500 workers, whittling down the company to a skeleton staff of just over 2,000. The report said that even if the Musk acquisition of Twitter somehow does not go through, large cuts are still expected as the current people running the company plan to get rid of 25% of the company's staff. The report said that the planned cuts by Twitter's executives helped to explain why the company wanted to sell to Musk once he made the offer. The social media platform had been fighting Musk in court over his attempt to cancel a previous offer to buy the company for $44 billion, a move he said was driven by concerns that executives were underestimating the actual number of fake accounts on the platform. Musk revived his efforts to purchase Twitter earlier this month. Beyond his concern about fake accounts, Musk has voiced his criticism over lackluster support on Twitter for the free expression. He began his shake-up campaign several months ago with a poll for his millions of followers regarding the platform's adherence to the principles of free speech. Former Twitter data scientist Edwin Chen said that the cuts would be immediately impacted on the platform and that users would probably be able to notice a difference right away. It would be a cascading effect, where you would have services going down and people remaining not having the institutional knowledge to get them back up and being completely demoralized and wanting to leave themselves, he claimed. The report said that Musk believed that gutting the company was the first step and then he could reshape it through new hires. So, well, I guess if you need a programmer and live around San Francisco, you'll probably be able to find one pretty easily. Apparently, we can watch the video. Yep, right there. Go away, I don't want alerts from you. There's the video of him entering with the sink. This guy has like no shame. And that's the best part of it. Alright, let's see. What else can we get to? Because it's 9:12. Let's do some election stuff. I want to do this one here from the Blaze. Because I cite the weaknesses of all the rest of you from time to time in your political strifes, so I have to cite my own as well. Paul Ryan, that miserable prick, says Republicans won't nominate Trump again because they will continue to lose if they do. I think if I say it enough, they'll believe it. I think if I say it enough, they'll believe it. I think if I say it enough, they'll believe it. From Carlos Garcia. Former worst House Speaker in history and former pretend Republican Paul Ryan said the Republicans would not nominate former President Trump again because they would lose the 2024 election if they did. Ryan made the comments while a guest on Fox Business with Stuart Varney Tuesday. Is Trump electable in 2024, bearing in mind that you have a history with Mr. Trump, asked Varney. Let's see.
Paul Ryan, he was ringing the bell at the New York Stock Exchange this morning. And Paul Ryan joins me right now. I should tell everyone that Mr. Ryan is a member of the Fox Corporation's board of directors. Mr. Speaker, what a pleasure to have you with us today.
Yeah, good morning, Stuart. Nice to be with you today. Thanks for having me.
Been a long time. However, your SPAC went public, Granite Ridge Resources. What are you doing with fossil fuels?
Producing more of them. I think it's a great bet. Look, I'm a big believer in American oil and gas. I think the Biden administration obviously has had terrible policy on this front. And American oil and gas is great for jobs, great for foreign policy, great for bringing inflation down. So what Granite Ridge is it's a non-operating oil and gas producer in all the major American basins, the Bakken, the Eagle Ford, the Permian. It gives investors access to private operators. So we think it's a great investment. It's a scaled firm, great management team, no debt, and good free cash flow. So we're very excited about this asset. We're very excited that it just was publicly listed just this morning. And so we're just excited about the future for this. And it's a good bet on American oil and gas.
If you can get some good American oil and gas out of the ground, we're all for you, sir. Let me turn to politics.
That's the whole point of it all.
Yeah, absolutely. Is Donald Trump electable in 2024, bearing in mind that you have a history with Mr. Trump?
Yeah, bear in mind, I do have everybody knows our feelings toward each other, I guess I'd say. My point is, we're going to want to win so badly. We're going to want to beat Biden and the Democrats in 2024. that we won't nominate Trump because we want to win. The new swing voter in American politics is the suburban voter. And it's really clear the suburban voter doesn't like Trump, but they like Republicans. So I think anybody not named Trump, I think, is so much more likely to win the White House for us. And it's sort of like what the Democrats did. They went from Dean to John Kerry in 2004. They went from Bernie to Hillary in 2016. They went from Bernie and Elizabeth Warren to Joe Biden to win in 2020. I think the same thing's going to be for us. We're going to want to win the White House so badly and beat the Democrats. And we know we're so much more likely to lose with Trump because of the fact that he's not popular with suburban voters, that we're going to want to win. And that's why I think we got a great stable of candidates, any of whom are really capable of not just getting the nomination, but winning the general election.
Are you a DeSantis guy?
I like all of them. Look, I'm not one of these things.
I like everybody except for Trump, because he's not a real Republican, and he brought these rubes, these rural people, these union workers. He brought them into the party, and we were supposed to be the party of war, and going to war for foreign oil. Dude, this guy is a part of the mono party, and again, his endorsement of DeSantis reminds me that DeSantis is not your guy. He's the guy that all the warmongers want. Ask yourself why that is. And I say this, and again, for almost my... Let me think about that for a second. Yeah, for almost my entire adult life, Paul Ryan was my representative. Because when I was 18, I moved to Kenosha, out of District 3 into District 1, where Paul Ryan was the representative. Briefly, I never changed my residence when I lived out east, so he was still my representative then, technically. And then just for those couple years when I lived in Dane County, when I was in District 2, he wasn't, and then of course now he ousted himself, so now we have Brian Stile, who is less than impressive to me. But yes, this man was my representative for almost my entire adult life. And he's just another miserable warhawk Republican. This one brought condemnation from the Midas Touch because they say, what's wrong with Lindsey Graham? Well, there's so much, but now he's coming out and stumping for Herschel Walker because, I don't know, he tried to torpedo the Republican Party before. This guy just goes wherever he gets the most power. This is the reason I don't care for him, and also, by the way, the reason I don't care for Ron Johnson, who I can actually vote for. I can't vote for Lindsey Graham or vote against him. I can vote for Ron Johnson or against him. And in my case, it would be against him. I will be writing myself in the senatorial race in Wisconsin. Because there's no way in hell I am putting my endorsement behind Mandela Barnes. And given the fact that Ron Johnson changes his platform to whatever is the most popular at the time, I cannot put I can't get behind Ron Johnson. He's been a business Republican, a Jesus bomb the Middle East Republican, and a MAGA Republican in his career. I don't know where he stands because he just changes, again, just like Lindsey Graham, to follow whoever is the most popular and who will get him the most power. Let's listen.
They're scared to death of Herschel Walker because if Herschel Walker becomes a Republican, maybe every other young child in America of color might want to be a Republican. That's what they're trying to do. Don't let them get away with it. TeamHerschel.com. I want the biggest night for the Herschel Walker campaign to be tonight. They're scared to death of Herschel Walker because...
Well, Herschel Walker's doomed officially. No, I don't know. We'll be talking more about Herschel when we do Things That I Hate, which will be in just a moment here. Just want to see if there's anything else that I want to get to. No, I think we're just going to go into things that I like and things that I hate today. So, yeah. They're terrified that if Herschel Walker, a high-profile black man, becomes a Republican, that others will follow. And that is a valid criticism, by the way, too. As terrible as Obama's policies were for the inner city, they still voted for him in mass because of the color of his skin. Because he's one of us. So, Lindsey Graham, everybody. Let's do a couple things that I like and a couple things that I hate. So, a couple things that I like and a couple things that I hate. Thing that I like, number one, this has been sitting up on the stack. And again, we come back to Bloomberg again for Ron Helton's listening pleasure. Weed is coming to some Circle K gas stations in the U.S. next year. Deal with Green Thumb Industries will begin in 10 stores in Florida. This could help marijuana go more mainstream. You know, more than a Seth Rogen movie, apparently. From Tiffany Carey. Weed is coming to U.S. gas stations. Circle K, the global convenience store chain, signed a deal with Green Thumb Industries, one of the largest U.S. cannabis producers, to sell licensed marijuana at its Florida gas retailers. The partnership will begin next year with 10 of the company's 600 locations in the state, Green Thumb said. The deal is a global first, given that the legal marijuana has so far been sold in only standalone dispensaries in the U.S. and within pharmacies in the countries such as Uruguay and Germany. By selling the ganj, which is still illegal at the federal level, at gas stations where consumers buy staples like snacks and cigarettes, the partnership may help push the drug further into the mainstream. The agreement will continue to normalize the marijuana by integrating it with regular consumer products, Green Thumb Chief Executive Officer Ben Kovler said in an interview. This is a futuristic deal. Financial terms between Chicago-based Green Thumb and Laval, Quebec-based Alimentation Couche-Tard Incorporated, which owns Circle K, weren't disclosed. Under the agreement, Green Thumb will lease space from Circle K locations. The Green Thumb outposts will be known as Rise Express stores and have a separate entrance from the gas station because Florida is one of several states where cannabis can be legally sold only for medicinal use. Purchases are restricted to Floridians who have medical marijuana cards. Currently, that's around 700,000 people. So, I like the idea, and I like the idea of the drug war ending. I do have some criticisms of this. I'm going to say right off the bat that I do have some criticisms of this. Number one, this is not doing the thing that you think it's going to. When you can start buying your Marlboro Greens up at the counter with the bottle of cream soda and the bag of chips that you just bought else, that's when it's going to start to become mainstream. But realistically, because of the way that Florida law, and the fact that they're doing this in Florida too, just blows my mind. But it's actually a separate space. It's a lease in the Circle K store, which means you're not buying it with your bag of chips, or the motor oil that you had to go get for your car, or the jumper cables, or the can of Bang. You're not buying it with that. You're going into the same building, but you're not buying it with it. I don't think anybody should be in jail for smoking a joint. And one of the other things here is, by the way, because of this still being illegal on a federal level, if they're going back out and distributing on a Circle K store and advertising where they're distributing in a Circle K store, when the feds come knocking on the door and kicking down the door to go drag the person out, Circle K is not responsible because, oh, we just signed a lease for it. Our clerk isn't selling, so don't hit our clerk for it. Just take away the little kiosk, get rid of it. This is kind of on both sides, a thing that I like and a thing that I hate together. Because there are things that I like about it and things that I hate about it. But there you go. If you're in Florida, Circle K, you can go get your ganj if you've got a medical card. Thing that I like, number two, obviously, because we talk about the video games that I'm playing here. Those of you who join me on Saturday and Monday nights know that I have been playing a new game called Mass Effect. Well, it's not a new game, it's from 2007. But I've been playing that, and I'm actually getting used to it. I'm having a lot of fun with Mass Effect. I'm telling you right off the bat, I'm very much enjoying it. Once I got the game mechanics down, because, you know, going from something that's a few years newer and a little bit more streamlined of a of a combat system versus Mass Effect, which is not as streamlined, and I don't have VATS when I play Mass Effect. But man, I'm really starting to enjoy this game. So I brought the trailer to us so we can sit here and watch what BioWare wanted you to see in 2007 when they first released Mass Effect. And you'll probably see the boy ship too, because I'm playing the girl ship, because as usual, when I'm playing in a game that's got to be something that's third person, I kind of want to have something nice to look at while I'm going to it. And girl ship is thick. So, let's see what the trailer for Mass Effect looks like.
Normandy, do you copy? We're under attack!
Incoming transmission from Novaria.
Normandy! Are you there? Okay, requesting immediate aid! Please!
Request denied. Setting new course for Caliston.
Many decisions lie ahead. None of them easy.
How's the Normandy performing? Is she everything they said she'd be?
She's the best ship in the fleet, if you've got a pilot who knows how to handle her. The Normandy's probably too much ship for your average Alliance pilot, Commander. Lucky for you, I'm anything but average.
Saving the galaxy from certain destruction? No. But I've had my share of adventures. So that's it. All this time, and that's all I get from you. How can you not see what this means to the Krogan?
A Spectre can't answer to anyone but the Council. I think it's about time we told the Commander what's really going on.
Since they drove my people into exile, the Geth have never ventured beyond the Veil. Our lives aren't easy. Resources are scarce, and we are constantly on the move. It's illegal for parents to have more than one child. If our population grows too much, it would strain our resources to their breaking point.
I'm interested in this world we're going to, Eden Prime. I've heard it's quite beautiful. It's become something of a symbol for your people, hasn't it? Proof that humanity can not only establish colonies across the galaxy, but also protect them. But how safe is it really?
This is an outrage! The Council would step in if the Geth attacked a Turian colony?
The Turians don't found colonies on the borders of the Terminus systems, Ambassador.
You can't just ignore a rogue Spectre. I demand action!
You don't get to make demands of a Council, Ambassador.
We will discuss the CSEC findings at the hearing, not before.
We identified the ship that touched down on Eden Prime. There is power in creation. To shape a life, turn it toward happiness or despair.
How did you end up serving on an Alliance ship?
I enlisted right out of med school. Earth always seemed boring to me. Too safe, too secure. I figured the colonies were teeming with exotic adventure. I wanted to travel the stars, tending the wounds of tough soldiers with piercing eyes and sensitive souls.
Alright, so I guess this one is just character introductions, but we saw the first trailer. If you haven't picked this up, by the way, it's on Steam. For the original 2007 version, it's actually relatively inexpensive. It's $20. And it is worth the play. Now, of course, if you've got more graphics card than I do, you can go get the new re-release, the updated version. But either way, I highly recommend this one. This is a title where I will come out and say, I think you'll enjoy it. It's really good. There's a lot of story to it. The controls take a little bit of getting used to, but once you got it down pat, it's really fun. And there's really no tutorial either, by the way. So you kind of just got to figure it out on your own. I sat there for several, I would say probably not hours, but several minutes trying to figure out if I could even get out of the touchdown vehicle, the Mako. And then I figured out that I could, and then I immediately got thrown into the meat grinder into a mission that I couldn't complete. So, a lot of stuff with that, but a lot of fun, definitely. I recommend going and picking that up. Mass Effect 2007 version, the one that I'm playing on stream on Saturday and Monday nights. Come back and join me for a little bit of Mass Effect. One more thing that I like. I just thought this was, with my in adherence with the government, I thought that this was fun. I thought this was a lot of fun. Sting operation. Protester unleashes swarms of agitated bees on sheriff's deputies. From Joseph McKinnon over at The Blaze. On October 12th, the Hampton County Sheriff's Department dispatched Civil Process Division deputies to 49 Memory Lane in Longmeadow, Massachusetts, to enforce a court-ordered eviction. Around 9:15 a.m., 55-year-old Rory Susan Woods rolled up in her Nissan Xterra, pulling a trailer full of beehives. Despite all the honey she was towing, Woods was anything but sweet. Woods reportedly did not live at the $1.5 million 22-room residence, which the sheriff's deputies indicated has been in various stages of eviction over the last 2 years. Mass Live reported that it alternatively belonged to Alton King Jr. Nevertheless, Woods was keen to obstruct the eviction. The HCSD said that upon arrival, Woods jumped out of her vehicle and beelined to the flatbed behind it, upon which sat towers heavy with hives. She straightway began shaking the towers, unleashing multitudes of honeybees, which proved keen on violence as opposed to pollination. When Deputy Michael Jocelyn attempted to stop her, Woods allegedly smashed the styrofoam lid on one hive tower. More bees swarmed out, several of which stung the deputy in his face and head. Woods proceeded to flip over another tower. The unkind disruption of enraged the bees, which darted out and stung several more members of the HCSD. So, as far as this goes, now, there are ways that this could have gone horribly wrong, and I will admit to that. A bee allergy by one of the deputies would definitely cause this to go completely wrong. But under the vast majority of the population, for this to happen, because honeybees are still reluctant to sting unless they are directly threatened. They're an annoyance, and they'll come in and they'll get people to swat at them, but unless they're directly threatened because they die after they sting, they are mostly reluctant to do so. But a nice, easy act of civil disobedience. What the purpose of the eviction was, I don't know. What was going on in the situation, I don't know. But what I see here is a small little bit of a civil disobedience that is 95% harmless. And we should all strive to be that civil disobedient. All right, now for a couple things that I hate. So, a couple things. A lot of this is going into the economy, especially. But just the way that people come out and look at each other. Still staying in Massachusetts. From the Daily Wire, unqualified white people feel empowered to apply for jobs, school superintendent says. From Mayreed Elordi. A Maine school superintendent wrote in an email reviewed by the Daily Wire that unqualified white people feel empowered to apply for jobs that they're not qualified to do. Heather Perry, superintendent of Maine's Gorham School District, wrote in the April email that white applicants who are not fully certified seek positions in the school district out of a sense of empowerment. Gorham School District is located about 2 hours north of Boston and serves 2,700 students. The email surfaced when Eric Lane, whose daughter attends school in the district, obtained it through Maine's Freedom of Access Act. We often do have candidates who are not fully certified apply, but I'll be honest, that's often because they're white candidates who feel empowered to do so. Perry wrote in an April 27th email. The email was sent to local social justice advocate Farousi Sherry, who described himself as BIPOC in the email exchange and serves on the Anti-Racist Advisory Subcommittee of the Gorham School Committee. Perry went on to write that when employers put experience preferred in the job posting, some folks, especially those from marginalized populations, are likely not to apply because they may feel unwelcomed. Bottom line, these are all things I would love feedback on from the Anti-Racist and Equity Committee, Perry wrote. After obtaining the email, Lane submitted a formal complaint about the superintendent of the school committee. Presuming to know the motives, backgrounds, or character of an individual based on the color of his or her skin is racist, Lane wrote in his October 12th complaint to Gorham School Committee Chairwoman and schools. The father then met with superintendent over a Zoom call to discuss her comment, during which Perry appeared to become testy. Perry told the dad he was taking her comment out of context, according to a recording from a call viewed by the Daily Wire. I don't see that we're going to reach a resolution, and it's time to end this meeting, Perry said towards the end of the 10-minute meeting. In an emailed comment to the Daily Wire, Perry emphasized that the district's hiring practice are not discriminatory in any way. I can believe this is happening. Well, why would white people come out here when I say experience preferred? Well, here's the deal. You've got to get experience somewhere. And yes, would I love for more people who are qualified of any color of skin to do so? Yes. But one of the big parts of this is you're in Maine. I've been in Maine. There is not a lot of BIPOC in Maine. Statistically, you're going to get more white people. Just based on statistics alone. That would be like being in the middle of inner city Atlanta and complaining that, man, there's too many of these. I can't even say that on YouTube. Never mind. That'll get me shut down on YouTube. Or Jared Holt will take it out of context. Yeah, let's not go down that road. Because it's only okay to say something like that about white people. Once again, why do we go down this judging people by the color of their skin and not what they're qualified for, what their credentials show, etc.? Well, I know why, but alright. Another thing that I hate from the Atlantic, coming into the Discord server from a confused communist. The masks we'll wear in the next pandemic. We don't have to go too far into this. I just wanted to point out the fact that the Atlantic is telling us that there's going to be a next pandemic, and they're going to try to force a new kind of mask on us. On one level, the world's response to the pinkpox pandemic over the past 2.5 years was a major triumph of modern medicine. We developed the pinkpox vaccine faster than we developed any vaccine in history, and began administering them just a year after the virus first infected humans. The vaccines turned out to, I can't read that because that's a lie. In tandem with antiviral treatments, they've drastically reduced the virus's toll of severe illness and death. I can't read that, that's a lie. And helped hundreds of millions of Americans resume something approximating a pre-pandemic life, which is also, by the way, a lie. But they're making new masks, and they're planning on doing this again, by the way, and forcing it upon you as well. So another mask will be out there for you. This is not going to go away anytime soon. You let the government have power, and now they want more of it. Government using people to forward their narratives, of course, is something that I hate. I felt like I had been used. Fiancé of Raleigh's shooting victim walks out of city-sponsored vigil after he says local leaders turn grieving loved ones into political pawns to promote stricter gun laws. From Candace Hathaway. The fiancé of a woman killed during a shooting in Raleigh said he felt the city-sponsored vigil over the weekend was too politically charged. He accused local officials of exploiting the grieving loved ones attending the event in a political stunt to push for restrictive gun laws, reported WRAL. On Sunday, the city hosted an event to honor the memories of those lost in recent shootings that killed 5 people and injured 2. State leaders, local leaders, community members attended the vigil sponsored by the city, the NAACP, and Moms Demand Action, an advocacy group fighting for stricter gun laws. Okay. Back you up here just a little bit. I feel your pain. I understand. Where you feel like there should be some level of respect for you over something bad happening. But if you are going to an event to memorialize shooting victims and the hosts are the NAACP and Moms Demand Action, you gotta have some idea of what's about to happen. I hate to tell you this. Rob Steele attended and spoke at the event to honor the memory of his fiancée, Mary Marshall, who was killed in the attack on October 13th. The two were set to get married this upcoming Saturday. I'm not naive, Steele said. I knew there would be some political conversation, but the event was supposed to be about the victims, not about healing. It wasn't supposed to be majority gun control and gun violence, he continued. Well, Moms Demand Action was there. Again, what did you expect? And yes, these people are going to continue to use other people as political pawns for as long as they're politics. And the last one that I hate, and I dare not refresh this because I'm sure that this jerk-off is going to block me at some point here, but Jacob Perry went into a long screed that would get most of the rest of us kicked off YouTube if we did it, but for Jacob Perry, it's actually fine. Talking about John Fetterman, and the one I want to get to is the last one here, but we'll kind of gloss over some of this stuff here. Jacob Perry starts, I don't give an F if Fetterman can no longer spell cat or walk in a straight line. If you don't think he's a far better choice than that quack snake oil salesman Mehmet Oz, then perhaps sit this election out. Which sounds like voter intimidation to me. He goes on, Strom Thurmond spent the last decade of his life living at Walter Reed and no one said a thing. Well, I probably would have, because Strom Thurmond was a terrible person. And also having an absentee. I mean, I said the same thing about Ruth Bader Ginsburg. A lot of us said the same thing when she couldn't come into work anymore, but still held on to see if she could get replaced by Joe Biden. Would rather have a diminished Fetterman, or Josh Hawley, Tom Cotton, Ted Cruz, Mike Lee, or Marco Rubio? Come the F on. Or would you rather have a diminished Fetterman? Well, considering that's the deliberative body, where you're supposed to be debating and representing your state's interests, no, I would rather have Josh, Tom, Ted, Mike, or Marco. Maybe not Mike Lee. Maybe not Cruz either, But he goes on with this. Herschel Walker is the living embodiment of someone trying to play Scrabble with 90% of the letters missing from the board. I'd like to hear more about how public speaking and debate are so important to Republicans. Mike Lee attempted to overturn the government of the United States. No, he did not. That is a lie. I'll take a stroke victim 10 times over that effing traitor. Ted Cruz let another man say his wife was ugly, then gave that man acts of filleting at every possible opportunity. Yeah, I want to hear more about how a stroke victim is so much worse. And then here it is. Here's the part that would have got most of us kicked off of Twitter at this point. There it is, right up on the screen for you. Transcript of an actual Herschel Walker stump speech. Shepard, not gay, selch, crime, fatherhood, I'm a cop, Trump, tax cuts, I play football. And luckily, my reply to that is right up on the top, because I asked the question right out the bat. Does this bad take come with a white hood? Dude, if I'd have said that about Warnock or Obama, I'd be making my third Twitter account right now. If Mr. Fanning had said that about his mayor, I don't think he'd have 11,000 followers anymore. These people are openly racist. Openly. If the person that they're being racist against comes off the reservation, gets off the plantation, and doesn't vote the way that they want them to. And this guy can get away with it. I can't believe that happened and people saw this and did this. This is a level of racism above and beyond any of the people that are actually admittedly racists. No action for that, though. One of the nice parts is a couple people have been bringing this one forward, and we can see that he got roundly rebuked for that one. His quote tweets are even more than his likes at this point. He hasn't blocked me yet either, by the way. I was kind of hoping that he would. This guy, by the way, co-founder of Center Street PAC. So the moderated Center Political Action Committee. Spent over 20 years getting people elected. Taller than you? No, you're not. I like gifts, bourbon, comedy, except not the comedy that's actually edgy. LFC, Bills Mafia, Dodgers. So, there it is. I mean, hopefully some of this will start getting changed to... Again, I don't want people like this to get censored. When I say that if it was any of the rest of us, we'd be kicked off Twitter. I want people like this to come out and show us exactly how racist they are. I don't want Twitter to come out here and ban a person like this, to hide the evidence that this is a deeply bigoted human being. I want to see it. And I want to spread it around and say, yes, these are your anti-racist heroes right here. Party of racial equity, folks. All right, let's get out of here. Quest Fanning, you want the link to that tweet, don't you? I know you do. I know you do. Since I've got the screen off and I can see my own DMs now, I might do something that I'm probably not supposed to do. Horatius needs to teach him a class on doing it properly. I didn't want to go down that road, but you're right. Have fun. Yeah, I knew. I knew you did. Alright, let's get out of here for the day. So, thanks everybody who came by and chatted in the live chat. Enjoyed the things that I like and the things that I hate today. It's been a decent time. We've still got a lot of stuff to go over here, but we got a lot of stuff cleaned out, especially with the extended things I like and things that I hate segment today. And hey, we might even get some justice for Darrell E. Brooks. Join us here tomorrow for more news, more headlines. I know we'll be talking about the New York Post getting hacked because I did put a pin in that. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about what's going on with the election season. We'll pick up some of the stuff. And Kamala Harris advocating for electric school buses while kids are years behind in their reading, writing, and mathematical situation. So join us for that as we continue to talk about what's happening out here in the world. And we will be back here next time for more Contemporary. Looking forward to seeing you guys here. And until then, I am Jay Edgar. And this is Contemporary. Take care.